Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The notification popped up on my phone screen at exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right as I was reviewing electrical schematics for the Henderson commercial project. Instagram. Beth's account. The preview showed white fabric and flowers. I almost ignored it. Beth posted constantly. Her morning coffee, her yoga poses, her book club meetings. But something about the composition made me pause. The white wasn't a tablecloth or a new dress. It was a wedding gown. My thumb hesitated over the screen before tapping. Our beautiful daughter's wedding day. So blessed to celebrate this perfect moment with family and friends. #blessed mom, #wedding day, #perfect family. The first photo showed Bree in a flowing white gown, radiant and beaming. My 22-year-old daughter looked stunning, her blonde hair swept up in an elegant chignon, holding a bouquet of white roses. She stood next to Tyler Morrison, the 25-year-old marketing coordinator she'd been dating for 8 months. I scrolled down, photo after photo. Bree walking down an aisle lined with white chairs. The ceremony in what looked like the Riverside Country Club's garden pavilion. The reception with easily 200 guests. My business partner John Tate in a navy suit, standing prominently in the family photos. My mother-in-law Margaret beaming next to the happy couple. Beth's sister Caroline and her husband. Neighbors, friends, co-workers, everyone except me. I set the phone down on my desk and stared at the wall. The Henderson project blueprints blurred as my brain processed what I'd just seen. My daughter had gotten married. Yesterday, according to the timestamp. My wife had organized and attended our daughter's wedding, and somehow my invitation had gotten lost in the mail. Except there hadn't been an invitation. I picked up the phone again and scrolled through the comments. Dozens of them. So beautiful. Congratulations. What a perfect family celebration. Beth, you must be so proud. The venue looks incredible. My hands were remarkably steady as I opened my banking app. The joint checking account showed the usual balance, minus a pending charge for $847 at Morton's Steakhouse from last night. Beth's celebration dinner, apparently. But the wedding fund account, the one we'd set up 6 months ago when Bree announced her engagement, still showed the full $50,000 I'd deposited. Interesting. I transferred the entire amount to my personal account. The transaction completed instantly. Then I called my assistant. Linda, I need to leave early today. Family emergency. Everything okay, Nick? Just some unexpected wedding planning. I drove home in a strange state of calm. 23 years of marriage, and Beth had finally shown her hand completely. Not just the subtle dismissals, the eye rolls when I spoke. The way she'd steer conversations away from my work or interests at dinner parties. This was different. This was erasure. The house was empty when I arrived. Beth was probably still basking in the afterglow of her perfect family celebration. I went to my desk and pulled out a sheet of our wedding stationery, the expensive cream-colored paper Beth had insisted we order for thank you notes we never sent. I wrote carefully, "Congratulations on the wedding I wasn't invited to. I hope it was everything you dreamed of. The $50,000 wedding fund has been relocated to celebrate this joyous occasion. Enjoy your new family dynamic, Nick." I left it on the kitchen counter, weighed down by the ceramic salt shaker Beth's mother had given us for our 10th anniversary. Then I went upstairs and packed a suitcase. Maldives in October turned out to be exactly what I needed. 85 degrees, crystal blue water, and a resort staff that understood the concept of do not disturb when applied to both my villa and my phone. I'd turned it off somewhere over the Atlantic and hadn't looked back. The Sunset Villa at the Coral Paradise Resort came with its own stretch of beach, an infinity pool, and a butler named Ahmed, who mixed perfect mojitos and never asked questions about why a middle-aged American man was drinking alone at noon. For 3 weeks, my biggest decision was whether to have the grilled mahi-mahi or the lobster thermidor. I read 4 novels, learned to paddleboard, and discovered that I actually enjoyed my own company when it wasn't being constantly criticized or ignored. On day 22, curiosity finally got the better of me. The phone took several minutes to power up and connect to the resort's Wi-Fi. When it did, the notifications came in waves. Missed calls, 847, text messages, 1,203, voicemails, 97. I scrolled through the call log. Beth's name appeared roughly every 15 minutes for the first week, then sporadically after that. John had called 63 times. Bree had called 47 times in the past 3 days alone. I selected Beth's most recent voicemail, left just 2 hours ago. Nick, I don't know what game you think you're playing, but this has gone far enough. The venue is threatening to sue us. The caterer wants their final payment. Tyler's parents are asking questions about the honeymoon you promised to pay for. I know you're getting these messages. Call me back immediately. Her voice had that sharp edge it got when she was losing control of a situation. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I scrolled back to find the first voicemail, left 4 days after I'd departed. Nick, where are you? There's been some kind of mistake with the wedding payments. The venue says the check bounced, and they're demanding cash. Call me as soon as you get this. The progression was fascinating. Day 4, confusion. Day 7, anger. Day 12, panic. Day 18, bargaining. Day 22, rage. I selected Bree's most recent voicemail. Dad, please, I'm begging you. Tyler and I are stuck at the airport in Rome. The hotel says our reservation was canceled for non-payment. We've been here for 6 hours and I don't know what to do. Everyone's staring at us. Please, just call me back. I know I should have. I know we should have. Just please call me. My daughter was crying, actually sobbing into the phone. I ordered another mojito and called her back. She answered on the first ring. Dad? Oh my God, Dad, where have you been? The Maldives. Lovely this time of year. How's married life? Dad, we're stuck in Rome. The honeymoon hotel canceled our reservation, and Tyler's credit cards are maxed out from the wedding expenses, and Mom said you were supposed to transfer money for the trip, but… Bree! My voice was calm, almost gentle. Was there a wedding? Silence. Because I didn't get an invitation. I saw some lovely photos on Instagram, but I wasn't actually invited to my own daughter's wedding. So I'm wondering if there really was a wedding, or if it was just an elaborate photo shoot. Dad, I wanted to invite you, but Mom said. What did Mom say? More silence. Then, quietly, she said you'd just ruin it, that you'd make some sarcastic comment or embarrass us in front of Tyler's family. She said it would be better for everyone if we kept it small and intimate. 200 people is small and intimate? Dad, please. Tyler's parents are furious about the money, and his cousins are posting about us on social media, and I just need… Bree, you had 200 guests at your wedding. Surely one of them can help with a hotel room. I hung up. Ahmed appeared with my mojito, as if by magic. Good news from home, sir? The very best kind, Ahmed. The very best kind. I returned to Chicago on a Wednesday morning, tanned and refreshed, and carrying a suitcase full of resort t-shirts I'd never wear. The house looked exactly the same from the outside. Manicured lawn, Beth's prized rose bushes, the BMW and the Lexus in the driveway. Inside was a different story. The kitchen counter was covered with papers, invoices, payment demands, legal notices. Beth sat at the breakfast table in her bathrobe, her usually perfect hair unwashed and pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked up when I walked in, and I saw something I'd never seen before in 23 years of marriage. Fear. Nick! Thank God! Where have you been? I've been calling and… Aleb, the Maldives. I sent you pictures, didn't I? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the photos I'd taken but never sent. Look, here's me at the infinity pool. Here's the sunset from my villa. Here's Ahmed. He makes incredible mojitos. You should meet him sometime. Nick, we have a serious problem. The venue is threatening to sue us for breach of contract. The caterer wants $15,000. The florist, the photographer, the band, everyone wants their final payments, and the money isn't there. I set my suitcase down and walked to the coffee maker. That's strange. I put $50,000 in the wedding account. It's gone, Nick. The entire account is empty. Huh. I started the coffee maker and turned to face her. That is mysterious. Have you tried asking John? He seemed very involved in the wedding planning, from what I could see in the photos. Beth's face flushed. John doesn't have that kind of money. No, I suppose he wouldn't. Business hasn't been great for him lately. All those bad investments, the gambling debts. It's a shame, really. Her mouth opened, then closed. She knew that I knew, had probably known for months. Nick, whatever you think you know, I don't think anything, Beth. I know that my daughter got married and I wasn't invited. I know that my wife organized a wedding without telling her husband. I know that my business partner was prominently featured in the family photos while I was conspicuously absent. And I know that you're all in serious financial trouble because you assumed I'd just quietly pay for everything after being excluded from everything. I poured my coffee and took a sip. Perfect temperature. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to call John and ask him to cover the wedding expenses. After all, he got to walk Bree down the aisle, didn't he? I saw the photos. Touching moment. Very paternal. Nick, please. I know we made a mistake. A mistake? I laughed. Actually laughed. Beth, a mistake is forgetting to send an invitation. A mistake is double booking the venue. What you did was deliberately exclude me from my daughter's wedding while planning to stick me with the bill. That's not a mistake. That's a con job. I walked to my briefcase and pulled out a manila envelope. These are divorce papers. I had them drawn up in the Maldives. Amazing what you can accomplish with international Wi-Fi and a good lawyer. You'll find the terms quite generous, considering the circumstances. 50-50 split of assets, no alimony since you'll be working full-time now, and joint custody of our financial responsibilities going forward. Beth stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Which means, I continued, that you're responsible for exactly half of the wedding expenses you incurred without my knowledge or consent. I calculate that to be approximately $37,000, based on the invoices I see here on the counter. Nick, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You wanted a wedding without me, Beth. Now you can have a marriage without me, too. I finished my coffee and headed for the stairs. I'll be back tomorrow for my things. I suggest you start making some phone calls. No. The penthouse apartment overlooking Lake Michigan wasn't exactly revenge. It was just good real estate sense. The divorce had left me with half of our assets, and Beth's half was rapidly disappearing into wedding debt and legal fees. My half, on the other hand, was appreciating nicely in a building with a doorman, a gym, and a view that made Ahmed's sunset look modest. I'd been in the new place for 2 weeks when John finally worked up the courage to confront me. He showed up at Foster & Associates on a Thursday morning, walking into my office like he still owned half the business. Which, technically, he did, for now. We need to talk. I looked up from the Morrison Industries proposal I'd been reviewing. John, good to see you. How's the family business treating you? His face reddened. John had always been easy to rile up. It was one of his weaknesses as a negotiator. You know damn well what I'm talking about. Actually, I don't. Could you be more specific? Are you talking about the Henderson project? Because I've got some concerns about your cost estimates. They seem a bit optimistic. I'm talking about Beth and Bree and the mess you've made of everything. I leaned back in my chair. The mess I've made? John, I went on vacation. A lovely vacation to the Maldives, as a matter of fact. I sent postcards. Well, I meant to send postcards. How exactly did my vacation create a mess? You know what you did. I know what I did, yes. I know what you did too. The question is, what are you planning to do about it? John stepped closer to my desk. He was trying to intimidate me, which was almost charming. John was 3 inches shorter than me and had the soft build of a man who spent his days behind a desk and his evenings at the country club bar. I'm planning to fix this situation. How? Beth needs money for the wedding expenses. Then Beth should get a job. I hear Nordstrom is hiring. Nick, be reasonable. She's your wife. Actually, she's my soon-to-be ex-wife. The papers were filed yesterday, but even if she were still my wife, I fail to see how that makes me responsible for expenses I didn't approve for an event I wasn't invited to. John's hands clenched into fists. You're being petty. I'm being practical. Beth organized a wedding without consulting me, excluded me from the ceremony, and assumed I'd pay for everything anyway. That's not marriage, John. That's extortion. She's drowning in debt. Then perhaps she shouldn't have thrown a $50,000 party without checking her bank balance first. John leaned across my desk. You're going to help her. Or what? Or I'll make things very difficult for you. I smiled. Actually smiled. John, you're my business partner. We've worked together for 8 years. In all that time, have you ever known me to respond well to threats? He straightened up, realizing he'd overplayed his hand. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to leave my office. You're going to go back to whatever you were doing before you decided to play white knight. And you're going to stop making demands about my personal life. Because if you don't, I'm going to start asking some very uncomfortable questions about where you've been spending your afternoons for the past 6 months. John's face went pale. The Riverside Motel on Route 47, wasn't it? Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually between 2 and 4 p.m.? I have receipts, John. Credit card statements. Security camera footage from the parking lot. Amazing what a private investigator can dig up when he puts his mind to it. You son of a bitch. Probably, but I'm a son of a bitch with documentation. Now get out of my office. John left without another word. The beauty of social media is that it gives everyone a platform to destroy themselves publicly. You just have to know which buttons to push. I started small. A Facebook post about my unexpected vacation to the Maldives, complete with photos of me looking relaxed and happy on the beach. The comments came quickly. Looks amazing, Nick. Was this a surprise trip? Where was Beth? I didn't see her in any of the photos. Wait, wasn't Bree's wedding last month? How did you manage to get away? I didn't respond to the comments directly. I didn't need to. The questions were spreading organically through our social circle, and Beth's friend.
She texted you come back to bed at 3 a.m. Last Tuesday, you told me you were at your sister's.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Were starting to put the pieces together. The second phase was more direct. I created a private Instagram account and started following the wedding guests who had posted photos from Bree's ceremony. Then I began commenting. Beautiful ceremony. Sorry I missed it. I was in the Maldives. Funny how these things work out. Love the family photos. Interesting composition choices. Great venue. I should have asked for a recommendation before I booked my own celebration in paradise. Within 48 hours, the story was spreading through Beth's social circle like wildfire. The woman who had organized a picture-perfect wedding had somehow managed to exclude the bride's father. The whispers started at the country club, spread through the book club, and reached critical mass at Caroline's dinner party on Saturday night. I know this because Caroline called me Sunday morning. Nick, what the hell is going on with you and Beth? Caroline was Beth's younger sister, and she'd never particularly liked me. The fact that she was calling meant the situation had reached crisis levels. Hello, Caroline. How was the dinner party? Don't play dumb with me. Half my guests spent the evening asking why you weren't at Bree's wedding. Beth left in tears. That's unfortunate. I hope it didn't ruin the evening for everyone else. Nick, seriously, what's your end game here? My end game? Caroline, I don't have an end game. I went on vacation. I posted some photos. I made some comments about a wedding I wasn't invited to. If that's causing problems for Beth, perhaps she should have considered the optics before she decided to exclude me. She said you were being difficult about the planning. I wasn't consulted about the planning. There's a difference between being difficult and being ignored. Caroline was quiet for a long moment. She really didn't invite you? Check the photos, Caroline. Do you see me anywhere? But the money. What about the money? She said you refused to pay for anything. Caroline, I put $50,000 in a wedding account 6 months ago. The fact that Beth chose to plan a wedding without accessing those funds is her business decision, not mine. Another long silence. Jesus, Nick, she really screwed this up, didn't she? I think that's between Beth and her conscience. What are you going to do? I'm going to live my life, Caroline. I'm going to work and travel and enjoy my new apartment and let Beth figure out how to clean up the mess she made. And Bree, that was the question I'd been avoiding. My daughter had gone along with Beth's plan, had walked down that aisle knowing her father wasn't there, had smiled for those photos while I was being erased from the family narrative. Bree made her choice, I said finally. She's an adult. She can live with the consequences. The confrontation I'd been expecting finally came on a Tuesday evening in November. I was in my apartment, grading electrical certification exams for the community college course I'd started teaching, when the doorman called up. Mr. Foster, there are some people here to see you. They say they're family. Send them up, Marcus. I knew who it would be before they knocked. Beth, Bree, and probably John, coming to make one final appeal to my better nature. The problem was, I wasn't sure I had a better nature anymore. Beth looked terrible. She'd lost weight, and not in a good way. Her clothes hung loose, her hair needed styling, and she had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't been sleeping well. Bree looked young and scared, clutching a tissue and avoiding eye contact. John looked angry. Nice place, John said, walking uninvited into my living room. Must be costing you a fortune. Less than you'd think. The view alone is worth the premium. Beth stepped forward. Nick, We need to talk. We are talking. I mean really talk. About fixing this situation. What situation is that? You know what situation. John's voice was sharp. The situation where you're destroying your own family out of spite. I set down my pen and looked at him. John, I'm curious. In what capacity are you here tonight? Are you here as my business partner, as a family friend, or as the man who's been sleeping with my wife for the past 6 months? Bree gasped, actually gasped. She looked at her mother, then at John, then back at me. Dad, what are you talking about? Ask them. Beth's face was white. Nick, please, not in front of Bree. Why not? She's an adult. She got married, remember? I saw the pictures. Dad. Bree's voice was small. Is it true? Beth and John exchanged glances. That was answer enough. Bree sank into my couch, tissue pressed to her eyes. Oh my God, Mom, how could you? Bree, sweetheart, it's complicated. It's not complicated, I said. It's actually very simple. Your mother has been having an affair with John. They decided I was an inconvenience to their relationship, so they planned your wedding without me. They assumed I'd pay for everything anyway, because that's what I always do. Pay for things and stay quiet and not make waves. I stood up and walked to the window. The city lights stretched out below us. Thousands of people living their lives, making their choices, dealing with their consequences. But this time, I didn't stay quiet. This time, I made waves. And now you're all here because the waves are getting bigger, and you want me to stop. We want you to be reasonable, John said. I turned around. Reasonable? John, you've been sleeping with my wife and helping her exclude me from my daughter's wedding. In what universe is that reasonable? Your marriage was over anyway. My marriage was over the moment Beth decided to betray me, but that doesn't give you the right to help her humiliate me. Bree looked up from the couch. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to invite you, but Mom said, what did Mom say, Bree? She said you'd been acting strange, that you were jealous of her happiness, that you might do something to ruin the wedding. I laughed. Not a pleasant laugh. And what did you think? I didn't know what to think. You had been working a lot, and you seemed distant, and when Mom said it would be better to keep things small. 200 people is small? She said we could have a big reception later, when things settled down with you. When things settled down with me. I repeated the phrase slowly. Bree, did it occur to you to ask me directly what was wrong? To find out why I seemed distant? She shook her head, tears flowing freely now. I seemed distant because I knew about the affair. I've known for months. I was trying to figure out how to handle it, how to protect you from the fallout, how to end my marriage without destroying our family. But your mother made that decision for me when she decided to exclude me from your wedding. Beth finally spoke. Nick, I know I made mistakes. Mistakes? My voice was rising now. Beth, you didn't make mistakes. You made choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to plan a wedding behind my back. You chose to humiliate me in front of our entire social circle. Those weren't mistakes. Those were deliberate actions designed to push me out of this family. That's not true. Then why am I here alone while you three are here together? Why did John walk my daughter down the aisle? Why did you post those photos with the caption "Perfect Family" when the father of the bride wasn't even there? The room fell silent. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. Beth, you're going to sign the divorce papers, tonight. No more delays, no more negotiations. You created this mess. You can live with the consequences. And if I don't, then I release everything. The private investigator's photos, the hotel receipts, the timeline showing exactly when your affair started and how long you've been lying to everyone. I'll make sure every person at that wedding knows exactly why I wasn't there. John stepped forward. You wouldn't. Try me. He looked at Beth, then at Bree, then back at me. You're bluffing. I walked to my desk and pulled out a manila folder. John, you checked into the Riverside Motel 47 times between March and September. You paid with your credit card 33 of those times. Beth's car was photographed in the parking lot on 31 of those occasions. You had lunch at Romano's every Tuesday before your afternoon appointments. Beth told her book club she was shopping those same afternoons. I spread the photos across the coffee table. John and Beth walking into the motel. Beth's BMW in the parking lot. Credit card receipts. A timeline showing the progression of their relationship. Bree stared at the evidence, her face pale. I also have the text messages you thought you deleted, the emails you sent from your work accounts, and the financial records showing how you've been helping Beth hide money from the joint accounts. Beth sank into a chair. How long have you known? Since March. I hired the investigator the day I saw you two together at Romano's. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was trying to figure out how to handle it without destroying Bree's engagement. I thought maybe we could get through the wedding, then deal with the divorce quietly afterward. But you couldn't even give me that courtesy, could you? You had to make sure I was completely excluded. I gathered up the photos and put them back in the folder. So now we do this the hard way. The final confrontation came at the annual Foster and Associates holiday party, held at the Riverside Country Club on the first Saturday in December. It was the same venue where Bree had gotten married, which seemed fitting. I'd spent the week making preparations. The divorce papers were signed. Beth had caved after seeing the evidence. The business partnership was being dissolved. John's gambling debts and poor judgment had made him a liability anyway, and I'd made some strategic investments in local businesses that were about to pay off spectacularly. The party was in full swing when Beth and John arrived together. They'd apparently decided to stop hiding their relationship, which was bold considering the circumstances. Bree was there too, looking uncomfortable in a black cocktail dress, Tyler nowhere to be seen. I'd heard through Caroline that the marriage was in trouble. Tyler's family had been asking pointed questions about the wedding expenses and the failed honeymoon, and apparently Tyler wasn't handling the social pressure well. Young love, it turned out, wasn't strong enough to survive public embarrassment and financial stress. I was standing near the bar, talking to Margaret Henderson about her commercial project, when Beth approached. "Nick, we need to talk." "We're divorced, Beth. We don't need to do anything. It's about the business. John says you're forcing him out. John made some poor investment decisions. The partnership is no longer viable. You're destroying him." I looked across the room to where John was standing with a group of contractors, gesticulating wildly and drinking too much. "John is destroying himself. I'm just declining to go down with the ship. And what about Bree?" I followed her gaze to where my daughter sat alone at a corner table, scrolling through her phone and avoiding eye contact with the other guests. "What about her? She's your daughter, Nick. She made a mistake, but she's still your daughter. She's an adult who made an adult decision. She chose to exclude me from her wedding. Now she gets to live with an adult consequence." Beth's eyes flashed. "You're being cruel. I'm being consistent. For 23 years, I've been the reliable one. The one who paid the bills and fixed the problems and cleaned up everyone else's mistakes. But reliability, it turns out, is just another word for being taken for granted. So what? You're just going to cut us all out of your life? I'm going to live my life on my terms, instead of everyone else's terms. If that means cutting out people who've demonstrated that they don't value my presence, then yes." Margaret Henderson had been listening to our conversation with obvious interest. She leaned closer. "Beth, dear, I have to ask, why wasn't Nick at Bree's wedding? Everyone's been wondering." Beth's face flushed. "It was a small ceremony. 200 people isn't small," Margaret said. "I was there. Lovely event, by the way. But I kept looking for Nick and never saw him. There were some scheduling conflicts. I was in the Maldives," I said pleasantly. "Lovely resort. I highly recommend it for anyone who needs a break from family drama." Margaret's eyebrows rose. "You were on vacation during your daughter's wedding." "I wasn't invited to my daughter's wedding, so I took a vacation instead." The conversation around us had stopped. People were listening now, sensing drama. "You weren't invited?" Margaret's voice carried across the room. "To your own daughter's wedding?" Apparently there were concerns that I might cause problems. So Beth and John decided it would be better to handle things without me. John had noticed the attention we were drawing and was walking over, his face red from alcohol and anger. "Nick, what are you doing?" "I'm answering Margaret's question about why I wasn't at the wedding. This is neither the time nor the place." "When would be the appropriate time and place, John? When would be a good time to discuss why you walked my daughter down the aisle while I was excluded from the ceremony?" The room had gone quiet now. Everyone was watching. John stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. "You need to stop this right now." "Or what? You'll exclude me from another family event? You'll make another decision about my life without consulting me. I'll make you regret this." I smiled. Actually smiled. "John, you've been sleeping with my wife for 8 months, helped her plan a wedding behind my back, walked my daughter down the aisle in my place, and now you're threatening me at a public event. Exactly what part of this situation makes you think you have any leverage?" John's face went purple. "You son of a bitch." He swung at me, actually threw a punch, right there in front of 200 people at the country club holiday party. I stepped aside easily. John was drunk and telegraphing his movements like an amateur. He stumbled forward, off balance, and I helped him along with a gentle push that sent him sprawling across the appetizer table. The crash was spectacular. Shrimp cocktail, cheese platters, and champagne glasses went flying. John landed face first in the spinach dip, his expensive suit covered in food, and his dignity in ruins. The room erupted in gasps and nervous laughter. Someone was recording with their phone. Beth rushed to help John up, which only made the optics worse. The adulterous couple making a scene at a public event. I straightened my tie and looked around the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. As you can see, some people handle stress differently than others. Please continue enjoying the party. I walked calmly to the exit, leaving John covered in spinach dip and Beth frantically trying to clean him up, while 200 people watched and whispered and took photos. Outside in the parking lot, I got in my car and drove home to my penthouse apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. I poured myself a scotch, sat in my leather chair, and watched the city lights twinkle below. My phone buzzed with notifications, texts, calls, social media mentions. The video of John's spectacular fall was already circulating. By morning, everyone in our social circle would know exactly what had happened and why. Beth would spend the next several months dealing with the social fallout, the financial consequences, and John's wounded pride. Bree would have to explain to everyone why her father hadn't been at her wedding, and why her marriage was falling apart before her first anniversary. John would have to find a new business, a new social circle, and a way to pay off his gambling debts without my financial backing. And I would wake up tomorrow in my beautiful apartment, go to my successful business, teach my evening classes, and live my life exactly as I chose to live it. For the first time in 23 years, I was free.